the May 2019 shooting death of Kenneth Herring during what authorities say was a traffic dispute. That's how it began. The 62-year-old driver, soon to be victim, allegedly ran a red light. He hits an 18-wheeler before driving off. And that's when Payne attempts to intervene by following his truck. Is she going to get the license plate? What's she going to do? Well, ultimately, she pulls over, boxes him in, and tries to get him out of his vehicle. She had a gun with her at the time. The proverbial struggle ensued and ends when Herring is fatally shot in the abdomen. So we're going to recap some of the testimony we've heard already this morning. Let's start with this eyewitness who testified as to what he saw on the day of the incident. Here we go.
What did you observe? I mean, obviously you didn't know her name at the time, but what did you observe happening that drew your attention?
I just seen her outside hitting on his window or his car door. And that's what made me just pull out my phone.
Okay. And describe what you see as far as where is Ms. Payne standing when you see her?
Well, her back is towards me, so I didn't see her face or anything. But she was actually standing at the guy's driver door. Okay. That's what I saw. And
what did you see her doing at that driver's door?
Yelling, hitting on the window, hitting on the door, whatever she was doing.
From your angle?
From my angle.
It appeared that she was hitting on either the window or the door?
Yes.
Could you see if she had anything in her hands?
At the time, no, I did not.
What else happens next?
I ended up pulling out my phone to record. Honestly, I hate to say it like this, but that was like another day in Clinton County. And as I was recording, I heard a gunshot.
Now, did you see any sort of struggle between the driver of the car that she's standing at and Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Okay, describe what you saw.
It just looked like a little pushing back and forth.
And you indicated that you pulled out your phone and recorded. Are you kind of moving past it as it's happening when you record?
Yes, I was actually traveling past it when I was recording.
And you would agree that there's some sort of struggle or tussle between the two people?
Yes, I ended up getting out to check on the guy after I heard the gunshot.
When you recorded what was on your phone, were you able to then view that recording?
Yes, I actually sent it to an officer on the site that same day. Okay. I don't remember his name, but if I could go through my email, I could probably tell you, find it.
Okay, but you had a chance to look at the recording that you were able to capture on your phone.
Yes.
Did you alter that recording or delete it or add anything to it in any way?
No, ma'am.
So the video that you provided to law enforcement is what you recorded on your phone?
Yes.
Okay, so we know what is the least credible form of testimony and evidence, right? It's direct evidence from witnesses. They always get it wrong, but in this case, he happened to be, rolling his camera, recording what he saw and what he is talking about now, which is the initial part of the altercation between the defendant and Kenneth Herring, the ultimate victim in this case. So important for this jury to figure out. Remember, this is all about what happened in that moment. Not that she was following him, not that she boxed him in, really. The key is what happened when that confrontation began, which resulted in a shot being fired and Mr. Herring dying. Was it because they tussled over the gun? There was some great DNA testimony we'll probably get into a little bit later to determine exactly what kind of contact there was between the decedent and the gun. Anyway, to talk about this case and much more for today, I have with me Natalie Whittingham-Burrell, and she's a criminal defense attorney, and Catherine Lozardo. We're getting the band back together, guys. Here it is on a Friday. Catherine, a trial attorney in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and in D.C. Natalie. So, Natalie, we're getting to really what is the crux of this case, that crux word that I use all the time. It's such a common word. It's really that moment where they were confronting one another. She was confronting him. She was getting him out of his truck. Give me your take on the importance of this series of events.
Well, I think it's important that they have someone who saw this series of events, because a lot of the time it's he said, she said, or she said, he said, and you have a tiebreaker here. And like you were saying, that video footage kind of takes away from the unreliability of eyewitnesses. In the age of AI, this might be going away a bit, but the video evidence doesn't lie. And so it's going to be up to the jury what they believe. But ultimately, you've got some reliable third-party evidence, someone who's disinterested and not really involved.
Yeah.
That's always very credible.
So, I mean, he'd rather not be there. Nobody wants to be going into court dealing with this kind of stuff. So that gives him some indicia of credibility. But everybody whips out their phone when something starts to happen, right? That's kind of the thing these days. So, Catherine, I mean, that's a great shot right there to give you a sense of the initial interaction. I mean, she's kind of going Starsky and Hutch on this guy right from the start. What do you think?
Yes, it definitely looks like that, especially with how it originally happened or started, where she followed him, even though the 911 operator that she spoke to said, do not follow him or do not engage with him, but she still did up to that point that we see. And this eyewitness is so critical in terms of he was able to take a video so close to what was happening. He testified that he was passing by trying to make a left turn when he whipped out his phone and recorded that video and heard a gunshot wound. Now, as to what we'll see on the video, if they're ever going to show it, because we only see the still picture from his video, which is what we saw earlier, in terms of whether or not we can actually see the tussle inside the truck.
Yeah, sometimes that's a technical issue as to what they allow being broadcast. We're going to follow up on that, but that still says a lot. Let's go back into court now, more of the direct examination of this eyewitness.
Well, you indicated there was a tussle. I just wanted to make sure you were more specific about that. What do you remember seeing in that regard, if you can recall? I know it's been 4.5 years.
It's been a long time, but it's just, trying to go back thinking 3-4 years. What I mainly remember the most is when I'm riding past, it's just a physical between the two of them, but as far as their arms.
Okay.
And just her yelling. That's pretty much the most part.
Did you ever see the driver of the truck, and her yelling, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Did you ever see the driver of the truck get out of the vehicle?
No.
Did you ever see anything in his hands that you would have seen as a weapon?
No.
So I've just been informed that due to just the setup in the court there, we're not going to get to see that video. So that's still, which tells us so much, tells us only, a frame of the story. Natalie, that's unfortunate. Obviously, we want to see those kinds of things because we played the 13th juror here. So important for them to see this because it's going to help paint that picture. When you first hear the story, you tell me, Natalie, you first hear the story that she goes out, confronts the guy in his car, then he gets out, some sort of struggle ensues, the gun goes off. I don't know, it could go either way unless you get some of this visual support to tell you what happened.
Exactly. The thing to understand about these cases is even if you break down a video to the exact moment of each and every piece of interaction, a lot of it comes down to the subjective intent and belief of the person who is engaged in a physical altercation. And in that moment, did they believe that they had some type of legal justification when they were acting? And so that's going to play a role as well. But, I'm not so happy if my client is right there in color video with a gun in their hand approaching someone else's vehicle. It does look aggressive, but we'll have to see what the whole thing comes out to be, even though we don't get to see the video ourselves.
Yeah, and luckily the jury does. And so, Catherine, when you think about this case and the region within which it is playing out, we're in Georgia. Maybe there are more aggressive people there in terms of their own self-defense. I don't know, but it's going to be a key issue for the jury members. As they see this story unfold, they're going to be like, okay, I would do that. I don't see a problem with it. How important was the voir dire in trying to get the jury that each side wanted?
Very critical, because as we know here in Georgia, we've covered other self-defense trial here and high-profile trial where people have died because of incorrect citizens arrest. They actually, it's my understanding, repealed the citizens arrest law in Georgia because of those kinds of mistakes that people do. Lay people are not trained to arrest people. The citizens arrest historically was, way back in our history in the hundreds century, because there was not enough law enforcement. But now we have trained cops who do that. And so it's about time to repeal that kind of law.
Well, yeah, that was the Ahmaud Arbery case, what you're talking about. I was down there when we received the verdict and covered that case. And yeah, it did change laws. The question now becomes, as the spectrum and the pendulum shift, are we now getting enough police coverage? Are people starting to think they need to defend themselves more? That's a big question.